Welcome to Blue's Garden. This is my new tomato trellis and also a bit of a June update. For years I've had this, the 3 years I've had this great trellis between my different sections of tomatoes. It makes it great. They grow up there. It's easy to pick. Last winter I got a little bit of snow, which is not a big deal unless it crushes your tomato trellis. I knew that this would happen. It wasn't a very strong trellis, just a little arch. And so I ordered some tomato trellises, actually just some arches. Took some time to build them. 2 of the 3 came, and they're kind of neat, but they weren't complete. So when I finally got them all in, there were 3 of them. And I ended up adding a little bit of chicken wire on one side for the large beefsteak style tomatoes. These are all my giant crimsons and whatnot, and I would then tie them up and help them grow up. On the other side of my tomatoes, on the other side of the arch, are a row of my cherry tomato, grape tomato, and all that. So these guys here are the large, there's some beefsteaks, some brandywines, some giant crimson. These are my zucchinis and squash. They're doing well, the summer squash and green zucchini. These are just my Roma, 3 Roma tomatoes, and some more giant crimson. This is how my sweet potatoes doing. They're doing pretty good. They've certainly taken root. I'm not sure, this is an experiment for me. I'm not sure what I'll get for for a harvest. Now, first for me, and I've been growing for years, I've never gotten flower buds on my regular potatoes, and this year I've got flowers. They've always just died back, and I harvested them. These are my peas. Unfortunately, that's the last of them because they got chewed the next day. Peppers. I've got 4 or 5 different varieties growing. They're in. The habanadas are in those 2 square boxes there that aren't up yet. I just planted some seed on a whim. And this is the cherry tomato side, which I mentioned that I don't have the chicken wire on. When I finally started tying them all up and I did a little bit of a floral weave, I discovered quite a lot. They were actually pretty big. So the Florida weave is a way of tying up the tomatoes, and I'm just running string back and forth through the tomatoes, one side, then the other. Over here on my garlic, I have garlic scapes, and I ended up just snipping all these off and collecting them, and you'll see I made a garlic scape pesto and added that to a really cool meal. I'll show you in another video that's coming up soon. Cut off the garlic scapes down as low as you can, and I'll show you how you prepare them in a different video. But I got a decent little harvest, and it was enough for a great little pesto I made. Now, garlic scapes, by the way, only grow on hardneck garlic. So any of the soft neck, white garlic, they don't grow. Only the hardneck garlic. Again, got a pretty decent harvest, and I'll show you what I made with them in another video. These are just a few of the garlics that are growing separately, and some onions. Those are green onion, and that is a ruby red, or red ruby onion. It's a long day. Yeah, ruby red. That is a Tokyo white bunching and a red bunching onion. A couple of the little peppers. Those three are the golden California Wonder peppers. 1, 2, 3 right there. Those are the 2 habanada seeds. Not sure how they are. When I get back to that garden in a couple of days, I'll give you guys an update. When tying everything up, I discovered one of my tomatoes was almost shoulder height. Now, one of the things about that is I realized once I started tying everything up, I went through and I cut any of the tomato leaves and stems that were close to the ground. Get a lot more airflow. You don't want any of your leaves touching the soil. That's a good way to end up with some soil-borne diseases. So I went through and trimmed off all of the lower leaf branches and just removed all that stuff out of there. Ignore it. I ended up going through and weeding after, but ignore it for now. Like I said, trim on all of the tomatoes that I could get to, any of the lower leaf branches so that there was no leaves touching the ground. Some marigolds there too. And then I would end up collecting a lot of that green and toss that all onto the compost pile. Little update on my hydrangea. Last year, a total of 3 buds because of the late freeze that killed all the buds. This year, I'm going to get a decent amount. An update on my other garden. This is what I mean by a Florida weave. You run string back and forth in front once and then behind the next time. And that sort of sandwiches the tomato stalks up, and it gives the tomatoes great support, but it leaves plenty of room for them to bounce just a little bit so that they're not really gonna snap. The string isn't too tight around it, so it's just a different way of tying them up. 1, 2, 3 tomato plants. Then on this one, there's a cucumber growing up. It's a Space 80. And then back with the Florida weave, tie to the wooden stake, go in front on one pass of the tomato, behind, in front, behind, you weave it back and forth, eventually go around the end, and I will end up tying off and then going back around the backside or the opposite side. So, Florida weave, just one way of tying things up, gives it support. These are some begonias that my wife put in, and this one of my basils going, some dahlia. There's some morning glory that you can just barely see behind there. I'm hoping that they will climb up. Just some different herbs. Lots of pollinators near those tomatoes where that last Florida weave was. This is on the other side. You can sort of see the tomatoes behind that wooden fence. Please like, share, and subscribe. It helps me grow, and that helps you grow.